Hello Flip Noise users. Today we're going to be looking at dropping multi-samples into Abletons sampler. Okay, so I'm going to start off with something fairly simple. I'm going to first of all insert a MIDI track and then I'm going to look for an instrument called sampler and I'm going to drop that in the MIDI track. I'm not going to load one of the samples because we're going to create our own instrument today. Okay, and this is my sampler at the bottom. And the first thing I'm going to do is get the zones up. Okay, at the moment there's no samples loaded, so I'm going to type in multi, and that stands for multi-samples. Basically what that is, if I go down to say my loop masters, and yeah, so for example in the Axsquare Electro, if I click on that, there's a folder called bass multis and sounds, and inside that, first one we come to, I'll just audition these so you can hear what they are. This one's the bass sound, it's C1 note, C2, F1, F2. So it's the same sound, but it's using different pitches. So we've just got to map those zones, those multi-samples to the zones. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab them all, chuck them all down there. Okay, and at the moment, it sounds awful because they're not in key and four sounds are all playing at the same time. What we're looking for is this little R here. It's the root, and it'll tell you which it is because look, this one's C1. So I can just come down here, and where it says root, I can just bring that down to C1. Okay. Likewise, we've got C2 there. Bring that down to C2, and I can just look where I'm bringing it down here. And then F1, bring that down to F1, just about there. And finally F2. The more multi-samples you got, the better it'll sound. But let's, for this example, I literally just want to use 4 samples. And notice my root goes there, 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 there. I'm just going to put these in order. I'm going to lift that one up so it can go down. The reason I do that is because now I want to right click on one of those and I want to distribute ranges around the root that I've just set. So if I do that, okay, now if I play the keys, okay, so they're all in tune, and that's simply because C1 was labelled in there, and a lot of these samples are already done like that. If you were sampling your own instrument, it would be a good idea to put the pitch of the note in the name, just like these guys have done here. Right, a couple of things I want to do now. That's fairly loud, so I'm going to go onto my ins and outs, my volume control, which is down here, and I'm going to bring that down. That's it, that's good there. Right, okay. So we've got our instrument in, but we haven't really done anything to it yet. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to bring my zone back up, make sure I've got a little bit of room to watch those there. Now then, sampler wise, we've got a few things that we want to look at. We've got the loop on already, just there. So if I leave my finger on it, you can hear the loop kicking in. The loop will just carry it on. So that's all set up. What I want to do is actually shape the sound to start with. So I'm going to go on to global, and it's this volume here I want. Okay, so if you know anything about envelopes, we've got the attack. How quickly the amplitude comes on. Okay, so that's going to take 20 seconds to reach that amplitude there. Right, so we want the sharp attack. Okay, now then, we want the sustain is going to be after the initial peak, like that. I'm going to move this over so you can hear a little bit more. The initial peak goes, and then it goes down here. So if I made that a bit lower, and it'll. So the sustain is how long when my finger stays on is the volume. The volume, and then the release is how long after I take my finger off the key it stays on for and fades away. The only one we haven't discussed there is the actual decay. Decay is easier to show. Okay, it's how long, when it goes up, when I play it, does it stay on for. So the more I bring it over here, this slope, well, it looks like it sounds. It goes up, and then it fades down there, and this time I've got the sustain to 0, so it'll go all the way to 0. Let's make that happen a bit quicker. To 0. So if I kept it there, but put the sustain up to half, then it's going to have an initial peak, and then do the same slope, but instead of going down to nothing, it's going to go down to half volume. And that half volume is going to stay there as long as my finger's down until I take my finger off. And then finally the release, let's bring the release right over. Goes up, comes down to half volume, and then when I take my finger off, goes down to there. Okay, so that's a little bit too much release for me. That's nice. Okay, so you can see there we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 samples, and they're all on the right note, so we can play things in key. And just like any other sample instrument I create, I like to use a bit of pitch envelope. So my pitch envelope is here. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn the amount up. And remember, this envelope is exactly what we've just talked about. We've got a decay. Okay, and my sustain as well. I'm going to put that on 0. These little arrows at the side are good. These little orange arrows, click on it, all 0. Okay, so what I can do here, if I bring the decay out a bit, it's going to go 48 semitones up, and then the shape of it is going to bring it down again. Down there, okay? It's going to go up and down. So I just want to get a little bit of crunch at the beginning, so I want to bring this decay somewhere like that. So without the pitch envelope, it doesn't have that bite at the beginning. Now you can, if you want, other controls. You can add an oscillator. If you add the oscillator, clearly you'll have to put the volume up of that oscillator. Okay, and then you've got the shape of the oscillator. Maybe you want it coming in. So it starts off without it, and the oscillator creeps in there. Okay, then you've got what sort of oscillator you want. Yeah, so you've got kind of a synthesizer and a sampler going on there. I'm just going to switch that off for now. And then a couple of other things. You've got the filter. Again, you can, depending on the type of the filter, I've got my filters there. I put a low pass on it. And then you've got a filter envelope as well. So how quickly that happens. So we can put that on if we want. And we have got a... Right, so we'll just listen to that first. So I've put a really slow attack on that filter. I've set the filter, and then this filter will slowly take that off. So let's have a listen. Yeah. Nice kind of filter sweeping stuff going on there. So just to recap, this was to set the actual shape of the sound. This is to put the filter on. This is how the filter activates, the shape of the filter activation. And then on the other screen, we have got the pitch envelope that we put on, just to give it that bite at the beginning. And then we put like another oscillator behind that as well, which has got a sine wave going on there. Well, actually, it's a sawtooth. We'll put a sine wave there. There you go. And that's the amount of volume you've got. So we've got 5 things going on there. And with the zone, most importantly, set the root, and then we distribute around the key. If you distribute roots around there, it changes the root key, so be careful of that. And there you have it. If you did want to set up the instrument for some more effects, you could then clear your search, obviously, go down to your audio effects. Maybe we'll put a compressor on there. Maybe we'll put an EQ 8 on. Maybe we'll put some reverb slightly on there, and I'll probably put a ping pong delay on as well. Remember, if you're working with bass, you probably want to cut out some low frequencies just to filter that out. And the wet and dry is obviously really important. So that's your reverb. You've got your, I'm going to take that off a little bit. Going to give it some compression. This is the amount of compression we're putting on. It'd be a good idea to filter some highs and lows out. And if you wanted to, you could save that as a default preset to save yourself. Keep doing that every time. In other words, frequencies you can't hear, it's cutting off. Okay, and if you like that, you can Command A, group that together, and group that as an instrument. Once you've grouped it as an instrument, you can then maybe set up some macros. So, for example, any of these. Where's the? Let's go and do the filter. Let's do the filter attack. So I'm going to put that to macro 1. And macro 1 now. And don't forget, if you wanted to, you can map that to your keyboard. Mine's got auto map, so it does it for me. I'll just show you. Okay, and that's just mapping the macro to my control keyboard. Once you've done that, you need to go on to save that instrument, which is your little disc there, and I'm going to call that I'm going to call it Aqua, because it was originally Aqua Sky Patch. Aqua instrument 01, and once you click off that, it will save the samples with that patch. Anytime you want to load the track, you just drop it on there, and without the other one on, you've got that same patch, that same instrument here. Okay, hope that's helped, and I'll see you very soon.